93% of your life is spent indoors, but so many of our favorite moments are outdoors. The fresh air, the feeling of peace. Since warmer weather is almost here, let's make the most of it with Outer, the new outdoor furniture company with purposely designed furniture to get you outdoors more.
Outer makes the world's most beautiful, comfortable, innovative, and high-quality outdoor furniture, all from sustainable materials. I love the new outdoor dining table and chairs I just bought. It looks great in my backyard, and it's the perfect setup for hosting a dinner party. Go to liveouter.com/thefounderhour to see all the incredible products they have to offer.
For a limited time, get 10% off and free shipping. That's liveouter.com/thefounderhour. Terms and conditions apply. Hey everyone, before we get into the episode, just a quick reminder, if you enjoy what you hear, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. That way you get notified when new episodes drop. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, @The Founder Hour. Let's get into it. Our guest today is Bob Parsons, founder of GoDaddy, the world's largest domain name registrar. He's a U.S. Marine Corps Vietnam War veteran and recipient of prestigious military honors, including the Purple Heart Medal. Bob's entrepreneurial ventures span golf, motorcycles, real estate, marketing, and innovation. His passion for golf led to the creation of Parsons Xtreme Golf, also known as PXG, in 2013. Alongside his wife Renee, Bob founded the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation, donating an average of $1 million every 14 days to underfunded causes. Please enjoy our conversation with Bob Parsons.
Bob, thanks for being with us. We like to start it off like we do every single podcast. Can you talk to us a little bit about your early days?
Well, I was born at an early age, I can tell you that. My first business was, as many kids, was a lemonade stand, and it was a total disaster. I think I was about 8 years old. I was out in Baltimore, and it was one of those days in August where so hot you can see the steam coming off the asphalt, and I went ahead and my mother had this jar of real lemon in the refrigerator, and I used that, and I used sugar and water and made the lemonade, and it never quite tasted right to me. So I kept adding more sugar and more sugar and more sugar, and still had kind of an off taste. And I remember thinking maybe that's the way it's supposed to taste. So I go ahead, set this stand up outside. I got this big pitcher of lemonade with like the sweat on the outside. It looked just delicious. So my first guy that I sold it to was this insurance man. His name was Mr. Hill. And back then, insurance agents walked debit routes. So he had a little pork pie hat on, his tie's loosened, he's carrying his coat, and he comes up to me and he sees this lemonade. And so anyhow, he takes and he gives me, I was charging a nickel for a cup. He gave me a dime, told me to keep the change. And he goes, man, I really need this. So I poured him a cup of it. He took a big drink. I remember his eyes bulged. And he spit it out in the street, and he goes, kid, that's the worst fucking lemonade I've ever tasted in my life. And so I sold it to a number of people. Everybody demanded their money back. And so it was an utter failure.
That was the end of that.
What happened was when my mother came back and she asked, I was home by myself, which how most disasters happen. My mother came back and she said, how the hell did you make the lemonade after I told her nobody liked it? And I told her I used the real lemon that she had in the refrigerator. She said, I keep vinegar in that bottle.
Oh man. God.
So I made Vinegarade. So my first business was an utter failure. I mean, we made it right, and no. By then the word gotten around. Nobody would even come within about 10 feet of my lemonade stand.
Do not go to Bob's lemonade stand.
No. So anyhow, that's my early years. And now I don't know if you were talking about that early.
No, but I wasn't. But I'll take that story. More specifically, where were you born? Talk to us about your parents.
Well, I was born in Baltimore, South Baltimore to be exact. And my parents were both gamblers. With my dad, it was the dog track. I mean, not the dog track. It was horses, and mom, it was bingo and numbers and that sort of thing. Neither one of them very good at it, so we were always kind of broke. So I learned very early that if I needed any money, I had to make it myself. I had all kind of different jobs, typical jobs that a kid has, delivering newspapers, working at a filling station on a midnight shift, construction work, that sort of thing. And that's the way it went. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old back in 1968. Me and my buddy joined in August, and by when 1969 rolled around, we were both carrying rifles in Vietnam. And so, I mean, that's my early days. And then later on, after coming home from that nasty ass war, I went to college, and I worked in a steel mill for a year as a laborer. And then I went to college, and I studied accounting mostly because it was the first major in the book. And like when I was a kid in school, I failed the 5th grade. I was terrible. I mean, just terrible. And every year was a photo finish for me. When I came back from the war and the Marine Corps, magna cum laude. And So anyhow, things were very different after that. I taught myself to program a computer, and things just went well for me. But I had to work my ass off. I started my first business with shrink wrap software back in 1984. Lost all my money the first number of years, which is typical for any startup. And then I eventually had 40,000 in the business, sold it for 64 million.
We'll talk about that in a second. I'm curious though, you're wearing a U.S. Marine shirt, and I just want to kind of talk about that time. First of all, what compelled you to want to join the Marines, and what were some of the biggest takeaways like during your time there?
Well, when I joined the Marine Corps, I was 17. I was a senior in high school. And I had two buddies. Jim came by my locker, one day, and they said, "Hey, Bob, we're going to go down and talk to the Marine Corps recruiter. You want to go with us?" And I did, and they joined, and I joined with them. I mean, and they both were 18, so their parents didn't have to sign. My mother had to sign, so I had talked to her a lot, and she eventually relented, and there you go. Now, the reason I did it just sounded like a fun thing to do. That I had completely misread the situation, and what I took away from it was, when I came back from the war, I was a different guy. The Marine Corps taught me the importance of discipline, and I had no discipline in my life up to that point. Not discipline in the form of punishment, although there was plenty of that, but discipline in if you had something to do, you had to have the backbone to see it through. And you didn't have to like it, you didn't have to want to do it, but you had to do it. Importance of responsibility. They taught me that I had a right to be proud, and that I could accomplish far more than I believed I could. And they were all incredibly important things for me, because when I went into the Marine Corps, I had none of that. So I can tell you that everything I've ever accomplished, I owe to the United States Marines.
I read that you had been wounded in war and had to spend several months in the hospital. Was that a time that you felt like, what did you feel, I guess, at that time? I mean, did you feel like your life was like going to take a turn?
Well, I had Patrick. I had no idea. I had no idea. I remember when I got wounded. It was after I was in combat. For a month, and I got there. I seen my first combat. I wasn't with the squad 5 hours, and and bullets were flying. Uh, Guy was hurt horrifically that night, and I mean, and it just focused me completely.
Hmm.
I remember thinking that for sure I would die over there, and I made myself two promises. My first promise was that I would do until the day came when I met my maker. I would do my whatever I could to do a good job being a United States Marine, and not to let down the guy on my left and my right and the rest of the guys in the squad. And then the other thing is that I wanted to be alive for mail call. I do whatever I could to be alive for mail call the next day. I never looked into the future more than a day, and I mean that got me through that time I was in the bush, and the rest of the time I was in the military. And I can tell you I've used that in all my businesses since then. One day at a time, just one day at a time. Try to be busier. I mean, not busier, a little better. After that one day than I was the day before. And man, I mean, it's a powerful thing.
How does one day at a time and building a business that's a business that you'd ideally like to build into the future, how do those two coincide? Because I hear you, one day at a time is the right mentality for a founder, an executive, et cetera, but also for a business, it's not one day at a time, right? You're building towards the future. You're building a product that ideally will last beyond one day at a time. So how do you meld those two mindsets together?
Well, to me, I really don't look too far into the future. One of the things I've learned is that the number one thing that determines how successful you're going to be is how you think. That old saying, how you think, so shall you be.
Mm-hmm.
And, that could not be more true than it is in business. But, you have to be in a position where you can, you can get your head around it, where you can deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, one day at a time is that's it. I mean, that is the absolute best way. So when things aren't going good, and you don't know how you're going to get through it, just get through the day. And I know a lot of people think, well, I got to look way into the future. I never do. There's another old saying that is, worry belongs to tomorrow. Regret belongs to yesterday. Happiness is here and now. I try to spend my time in the present moment and look at what we're dealing with at the time, and that served me well.
Yeah. You talk about coming back and getting your accounting degree and then ultimately, starting this business. Parsons Technology, right? Was the business, and you were selling shrink wrapped accounting software. Why did you decide, after getting your accounting degree, to not go down sort of a traditional accounting path and actually start your own business selling accounting software?
Well, that's what I did. Actually, I eventually I taught myself how to program a computer, and I got good at it because I loved it. I would I had this little Apple IIc at first, and whenever I wanted it to do anything, what I would do is I'd write the code, and I'd study the internals and that sort of thing. And then when IBM came out in 1980, I bought an IBM PC and did the same thing. And what happened was I got really good at it. So I loved doing that. And I remember my father taught me, he told me, he said, when you love something, it tells you all its secrets. And, because it makes sense. You work harder at it. You do it because you enjoy it, and you learn things that you never would otherwise. Because if you're just doing it to turn a buck, you're not going to put the time in, right? And and you're just not going to be focused the way you are when you love doing it. So, I did that, and I wrote a program that I called Money Counts. That was actually a double entry system for home accounting, but it also was pretty slick to use for any business. I mean, I used it for my business and did all the accounting for it, and it was just fine. So anyhow, all this stuff when it came together, I mean, that gave me I thought, big advantage. The other thing that I did is when I first started Parsons Technology. Now, you heard this old saying, it's better to work smart than it is to work hard.
Yep.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Working smart is bullshit, right? The people that work say, well, I work smart. If you look into what they're doing, they're probably working for somebody that works hard. That would be my thoughts. So, I mean, I worked hard, and when I started, writing software seriously, I had already finished Money Counts, and I was working hard to get a tax software, a 1040 program, ready for February, and I would come to work, and I would work 60 hours straight. And I mean, I would never worry about the time. If I worried about the time, it was only about, oh my God, how much time do I have left? And the reason I worked 60 hours, I mean, I'd have worked 150 hours, but the problem is right at around 60 hours, I learned I start to hallucinate if I don't have any sleep. I mean, I hear things that didn't happen. I see things that aren't there, that sort of thing. So I had to get my ass back home and in bed.
Yep.
And go to sleep for a while, and then get up and go for a little quick run around the high school track, shower, and get to work and do it again. Now, had I not done that, I'd have never had that piece of software. And I mean, for the most part, Parsons Technology would have never been successful.
Yep. And I think you ran it for like a decade or so, right? Until you sold it to Intuit for, you said 64 million?
Yeah, I did.
How did you feel at that point? I mean, did you feel like you were on top of the world? I mean, you just sold this business for a lot of money at the time, even now.
This was in 1994. And keep in mind, I grew up with nothing. I mean, with less than nothing. And so, when I sold Parsons Technology for 64 million, I thought that was an incredible stack of cash. And boy, yeah, I did. I felt great.
What did you do? What was the first thing you did after that?
First thing I did, I don't remember. I think I sat down because right after that, my wife told me she wanted a divorce.
Oh, shit.
and that about buckled me at my knees. So, I said, okay. And, she had been a marvelous wife up to that point. And, she always supported me, whatever I did. So we took whatever we had and split it down the middle. And what I did, I was in Iowa, and I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, where I still am today, and started playing golf.
So she waited for that wire to hit, huh?
Yeah, yeah, she did. But that's just the way it worked out. Back then, I had PTSD from the war to beat the band, and The amazing thing is she stayed married to me for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, at that point, it was like a prize fight. When one fighter's beating the other one silly, you get the ref jumps in the middle and puts his hands up and he goes, "Enough!"
Yep.
Well, that's what she had. She had enough.
Yeah. Bob, you're obviously very self-aware of that. Did you deal with that at all prior to the divorce, or was that something that you worked, PTSD specifically that we're talking about, did you work on after?
Well, much after. Yeah, I did. And back then, when we came home from the Vietnam War, we didn't talk about PTSD.
Sure.
And you heard things like shell shock and war neurosis and that sort of thing. But I mean, for me, I always thought, Christ, I was in combat for 1 month. That was it. I shouldn't have PTSD. I shouldn't, but I did, and I had it to beat the band, and without getting off the track too much, PTSD. One of the crazy things is the human brain. One of the things it does is it hides the imperfections it has from the person that it's within. And so, I never even thought that I was off tilt, but brother, I was.
Yeah.
So, and then it cost me a second marriage, and then my third wife. I mean, she hung in there and she got me treated.
You talk about having these long days and hours at the office or just like working. Did that have a big effect at all? And do you think it's possible? I mean, is it possible to really be in the weeds building a business from nothing, but also have a very healthy, happy relationship at home? I mean, how do you balance that?
Well, I think it depends on who you're married to,
mm-hmm.
and and what you see in each other.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, when I was working like that, my wife was a big supporter, and she was as interested in me getting that 1040 program done as I was. So if I could have if she could have had me work 80 hours, she'd have probably done it.
Yep. Everyone's thinking about that exit strategy.
Well, no,
you weren't, because you were looking at it one day at a time. But her, different story.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. But we were thinking about notifying our customers that we had this tax product.
When it comes to legal help, I'm tired of hidden fees and complex billing structures. Isn't there a better way?
Well, that's exactly what Decrypted Law offers. They're pioneers in transparent flat fee pricing for startups. And guess what? They even have a subscription service for fractionalized general counsel.
Subscription service for a law firm?
That's right. Decrypted Law is revolutionizing the way legal services are consumed. For a flat monthly fee, startups can now have access to top-tier, on-demand legal counsel.
Wow, that's a game changer. No more bill shock, just clear, predictable costs. Decrypted Law, they're not just breaking down legal complexities, they're making legal services more accessible. Learn more and contact them at decryptedlaw.com. Mention the founder of our podcast so they know who sent you.
Love soda? Listen up. Introducing Olipop, a new kind of soda that's actually good for you. It's the fastest growing beverage brand in America, and here's why you'll love it too. Gut health matters, and Olipop has your back. 2 out of 3 Americans suffer from digestive issues, and Olipop tackles that with a soda that tastes amazing. With 9 grams of prebiotics in every can, it's the gut-friendly choice you've been waiting for. Now let's talk flavors. Vintage cola, classic root beer, my favorite, orange squeeze, classic grape, and more. It takes me back to those childhood days. And guess what? Olipop has way less sugar than traditional sodas. Vintage cola only has 2 grams of sugar compared to the 39 grams of sugar in a regular Coca-Cola. Pretty impressive, huh? But it doesn't stop there. Olipop's drinks are non-GMO, vegan, paleo, and keto-friendly, with less than 8 grams of net carbs per can. They've got something for everyone. Ready to give Olipop a try? The Founder Hour listeners can get 20% off their next order with the code FOUNDER20, FOUNDER 20. Head to their website, www.drinkolipop.com, or find Olipop in over 22,000 stores nationwide.
So you sell the company, you're golfing, you're hanging out, and then I think it was a few years later when you started GoDaddy, right? What happened? Why did you decide I'm going to do this all over again? And why GoDaddy?
Well, the reason I started GoDaddy is, a matter of fact, when I started it, all I had money and no ideas. Very dangerous combination. And the thing that I needed is I needed people that could really help me do what I was doing. And what that was is my idea was, well, we'll try a number of things, and eventually, if we'll find something that works,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's what we'll do. So we did all sorts of different things, and nothing worked. But the one thing that had some promise was doing websites back then, and this was back in 97, 98, 99. And so we're doing websites, but the problem with that is when working with websites, it didn't scale. I mean, here we are doing these websites, and the business that we can write is limited to what we can physically do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the beautiful things about software is, you can have, if your system's set up right, that can sell it for you. I mean, you can knock down some cash while you're married,
Mm-hmm.
and that works. But with just doing websites, it didn't work. So what we did was in 97, we started writing a program that would let a user do their own website. And we called it Website Complete. It eventually morphed into something called Website Tonight. And I don't know what it's called now at GoDaddy, but it's basically the same program. That is what helped the company, be successful. Now, after we did the website software, we launched it, and this is back during the .com boom. I mean, there was like zero sales. I mean, we might have sold 6 of them,
Mm-hmm.
and we're selling them for $29. Well, I'm going to tell you, it didn't pay the overhead.
Mm-hmm.
So, we went through some changes. We shut down our big office, and we moved to a little ranch house, and stuff like that. And so the thing that made it is we got this idea where one of our coders, a guy named Rich Merdinger, he filled out the application to become a domain name registrar. And so we followed through on that with the idea that if we became a domain name registrar, people would come in to buy domain names from us, and then buy our other software. The idea was as right as rain, and so that was back in, I think, right around 2001. But anyhow, up to that point, keep in mind, I've got about $38 million. And I'm funding this business that was called Joe Max Technologies. I named it after a dirt road that I passed on the way to work. And
Bob,
then,
at the time, was anybody else doing the domain name registrar stuff, or
that was a lot of companies were doing it, and we were told that the companies that were doing it, that that equation had been solved, and that the last thing we wanted to do was get into it and compete with them.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things we noticed about those companies is their websites were not that great. Their systems were a bit. I mean, it'd be hard to really find what you wanted. They were put together by engineers. Their policies were terrible. Their prices were high. Everything you can think of as being wrong, I mean, was wrong. And so we thought, well, if we did this differently, and we have competitive prices and fair customer policies and so forth, we'd probably sell some of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we go ahead and get to become a domain name registrar, and that took us about a year and $1 million. And in 97, I think we became a domain name registrar. Maybe it was 99. I mean, it's a blur these days, guys.
Yeah, but it's crazy because people are still buying domains the way they used to. I imagine. I mean, it hasn't changed too much from as a consumer, from what it looks like from my perspective. Like, and technology is changing constantly, which is crazy. So why do you think that it has endured? Like, the process of just buying domains hasn't really been as disrupted, if you will.
Well, the reason is first of all, and the other thing we did is we changed the name of the company to GoDaddy.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Well, we were thinking, what have we got to do to make this company where people want to do business with it? And one of the things was, people were saying, well, Joe Max Technology is a very forgettable name, and you guys need to have a better name. So me and this lady I work with named Barbara Rechterman, we went to work and over a couple of nights to find a better name. And eventually we settled on GoDaddy.com. And the day after that, I told the people at the office, I said, we're going to name the company GoDaddy. And they go, man, that's a terrible fucking idea, right? This, that, the other thing. But the name stuck.
Yeah.
So I mean, so there you go. So I've already forgot the other question you asked.
The question was, why do you think that buying domains has kind of remained the same from what it was back then?
Well, because the purpose that they serve is exactly the same. I used to look at, buying a domain name is your ticket to have a website, or certainly your own email address or whatever on the internet. I mean, that's the purpose that a domain name does, unless you're buying it just as a speculator. So it's pretty slick. And then what GoDaddy did, when GoDaddy got involved with all this, we democratized the internet. I mean, we sold millions of domain names, got a lot of people involved in the internet that probably never would have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we did that. I didn't exactly write the first browser, but brother, I moved a lot of goddamn domain names.
So, Bob, I have a quick question about the domain name stuff because I'm not very well versed at it. But, as someone who owns a few domain names, obviously the founderhour.com being one of the ones that we own, who really does own the domain? Because I'm paying you, my $9 or $15 a year and whatever to renew the domain name. Who is there an organization? Is there a registry? I mean, database? Like, who really owns this shit? Like, once it's actually in use.
Okay, it would be the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. They manage it. I mean, and you might say they run like if this was Vegas, they run the table.
Right. Yeah.
So
the domain cartel.
Right. I mean, without a domain, you can't do anything.
Now, a way to look at a domain name is, you see these vanity license plates that, some certain people have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you'd say, well, who owns that name? Well, nobody owns it. But what they do is they purchase the right to use it from the state,
right,
as long as they use it properly and they pay the license fee.
Yeah, it's more like a license.
Domain names are the same way.
Got it.
I hope you have Parsons vanity license plate. 7 letters.
Do I have it?
Yeah. Do you? I'm saying I hope you do.
No, I don't. You know why? I don't want to be that easy to spot.
Yeah, makes sense. So you end up running the company until what, 2011 or so?
Yeah, 2011. And then I did the deal with 3 private equity firms, KKR, Silver Lake, and TCV. TCV had a small part, and Silver Lake and KKR had a big part like I did. And what I did was I sold 71% of the company, kept 29%, and in selling 71%, I created a staff that worked for me, 36 millionaires, and one person actually, eventually wound up with about 200 million.
Wow, and you had to resign as CEO as part of that, right?
I did. I resigned as CEO, and I became a chairman for a while until they went public, and then I because I'm not the kind of guy you want as a public, as a chairman for a public company.
Why not,
brother? I'm just not refined and polished,
Got it.
So I became a lowly board member until the time when I sold the balance of my stock, and it was hasta luego.
Yeah. So now you have a lot more money. And do you have other ideas? Because I know you ended up doing other things after that. But what was the plan once you walked away? Once you stepped down from the board as chairman.
Well, I got into a bunch of low tech businesses, and I've been doing that since. I own bought a golf course, Scottsdale National,
which is like the dream, by the way, for me to own a golf course.
Well, yeah, a lot of and many nights that dream is a nightmare.
I can imagine. I can only imagine.
Yeah, but overall, I love owning it, and so we own Scottsdale National, and it has 45 holes, and we have a total of, I think, 150 members. Usually nobody's on the course, nobody in front of you or back of you. So it's a pretty nice place.
Sounds like a dream.
And then I own a golf club company, PXG. We make, and I'll tell you right now, we make the world's finest golf clubs. Everything we do is off the charts. Our apparel's the finest of any company. And all you got to do is go try a shirt on or something, and you see that. And our clubs, all you got to do is hit one.
Yep.
So those are 2 of the things we do. I have 7 motorcycle multi-line dealerships, and the only one that's not multi-line is a Harley Davidson dealership, Harley Davidson of Scottsdale, who is located in it's located in Scottsdale, but the building is 150,000 square feet. And I got to tell you, we move a lot of Harleys, so we got all those. We have a hedge fund where I'm the only investor. We have a number of shopping centers in the valley. I think we own 17 shopping centers around the valley here in Phoenix, Scottsdale, and it's basically what we do.
You mentioned PXG, and for those who don't know, it stands for Parsons Xtreme Golf, and it's a very popular brand now. I see it all the time. I see it all the time on television, like during the tours. I see it on the courses, and it's interesting to me that time and time again, like whether it was GoDaddy or PXG, like you went into an industry that had many incumbents, right? Like there's plenty of golf brands out there, but you end up not only getting in there but building a very valuable, popular brand. And so I just kind of want to talk about branding for a second and like what your approach is to that when you're launching something new. How do you go about creating a brand that not only stands out, and not only competes, but really just like, you know, it becomes like a top industry leader?
Well, the first thing is you can't do business the way everybody else is doing business that you're going to compete with. One of the things the Marine Corps taught me, certainly in Vietnam, is you never run directly into a machine gun. You come at it from the sides or in back if you're able to. The so that's the first thing. And your business policies that you have got to resonate so that people want to do business with you. The products that you have got to be unique in a certain way. The thing that we decided to do that was unique is we decided to make the finest golf clubs ever made, and I believe our first golf clubs that we released are Gen 1 0311s. I mean, they knocked the market on its ass. I mean, because there had never been anything like that right up to that point. And then, as soon as that was done, TaylorMade knocked them off.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to deal with them in court. And and that's the way it is. So we continue to do business direct. Everybody else is through the reseller channel. And the other thing that we do is we don't release our golf clubs until they're significantly better than what we've released before that.
How do you define better?
Well, that's a good question. I actually have some charts on my website that define better. Better in some cases is, are they longer? Do they launch higher? Do they feel like hot butter on a warm biscuit? I mean, do they?
We like hot butter on a warm biscuit. We do like that.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. I knew you'd be cornbread, man.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, and all those characteristics that you look for in a golf club. And then people will ask me sometimes when we release our clubs, they go, well, how are they better? And the answer is in every way, because that's the way we engineer them. And we continue working on them and putting money into them, into the materials and the processes. I mean, we use a process nobody would use but us. Most of our clubs, not all of them, but most of them are hollow bodied, and they have a filler that is, I think the one we're using now is called X-Core, and that filler is like polybutane. The engineers know the term, but have this filler, and the filler enables us to have the thinnest face in golf. Nobody's been able to duplicate the face that we have right now. And I mean, when you hit it, that thing is a little trampoline effect, and off it goes. Now, you would think that, okay, well, because this is the case with these golf clubs, they're not going to be that consistent. They're the most consistent in the industry.
Yeah.
And especially on mishits.
Yep.
People, mishit the ball, and they drop their club and so forth. And then they're stunned to see that the ball goes just about where they wanted to go anyhow.
Yep.
So anyhow, that's PXG.
Yeah, we've seen like basketball shoes before be banned by the NBA because it helps the players jump higher or whatnot. Has the PGA or like any of the golf organizations, tried to say like, oh, you can't. This is like a performance enhancing tool or something?
Well, the nice thing about all the clubs have to be reviewed by the USGA, and they're pretty clear about what you have to comply with in order for your clubs to to get their blessing, so that you can play with them in an elite or a professional tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So we comply with all that, and and even though we do that, we still find ways that our clubs are just outperform everything.
Bob, I'm curious, you've obviously made a lot of money in your career, both through selling two companies that you started. And you talk about this concept that it was almost dangerous to have a lot of money and not have many ideas. I would say that myself and many others that listen to this podcast probably don't have the luxury of having a lot of money and not many ideas. It's usually the flip side, where you've got a lot of ideas and perhaps not a lot of money. For those people in that boat with a lot of ideas but not a lot of money, what would you tell them, right? If they're looking to start a business and they don't have the luxury of funds and they could just say, hey, here you go, I'm going to hire 10 engineers and 2 marketers and get a business up and running. How do they do it?
Well, first of all, the less people you hire, the more successful you'll be. I mean, that's for sure, because you certainly keep that overhead down. And the one thing about early on in your business tenure, you always think, well, I'll hire this person, and if they make this much money, they pay for itself. Never works out that way. All right. And so what does work out is you hire the least number of people that you can, and a small staff will always be more effective than a large staff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at companies like Microsoft. I mean, how many people Microsoft have? Thousands, tens of thousands,
more than some countries.
And they might have hundreds, maybe 1,000 working on Microsoft Word and Windows and so forth, right? I mean, I look at that and I think, Christ Almighty, what a pain in the ass it is to deal with.
Right.
And if they had a much smaller staff, it'd probably be a lot better. Certainly, the guy that owns the company doesn't use it, or if he does, somebody runs interference for him. But and all that said, you would think I hate the company. I love the company, but some of the stuff they do is just a pain in the ass.
It sounds like you need to create like a new word processor, because I don't know if that's even been disrupted in the last 20 years. Parsons Xtreme Processing.
I think that's above my pay.
PXP.
Bob, you've had so much business success. Besides the vinegar aid, when you were younger, have there been any failures, setbacks, anything that you've faced that you could kind of share?
Well, I went to business with this a friend of mine named Fat Willie, and
Okay.
and we were making glue boards in Baltimore to catch rats. It was called Sure Catch Rat Traps, and so what we did, we used this heavy roofing paper, and then we put this glue in between them that wasn't supposed to set up, but did, and I mean, and we had all kind of problems. First, the glue dried much quicker. You couldn't get the 2 boards apart. And then early on, when you couldn't get the boards apart, you got somebody said, "Oh, my cat got in the glue." He lost all his hair. And, I mean, and on and on and on. So got out of that business quick.
You said you had a lot of business ideas that you tried and failed after selling the first company, or maybe not even failed, but just didn't work out. But which one of those, if you could think back, do you still feel like needs to be a business?
Well, I don't look at it that way, Nash. I don't feel that way. I can tell you, the one we did find domain names and websites, and then secure certificates and so forth. And what I did is I looked at domain names like somebody's buying a ticket to the ballpark. You go to the ballpark, man, there's people selling hot dogs, cotton candy, I mean, hats and bats and this and that and banners and everything. But to get in there, you got to have a ticket.
Right.
And see, to me, I look at that's what domain names were.
Right.
And so we sold all sorts of things. We had website software, we had secure certificates. We had e-commerce solutions. I mean, on and on and on and on.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it was a beautiful business.
Yeah. Yep. You're obviously a man of many interests, and I identify with that. And I'm curious, you talk about riding motorcycles, I know you hunt, you fly planes. I think your pilot's license, if I'm not mistaken, scuba diving, golfing, like all these things. How do you manage to do all these fun things on the side while running businesses?
Well, you make time for them, brother. The funny thing, if you have fun doing something and you love doing it, somehow you're always going to find a time to do it. and that's kind of the way it is. The time just kind of materializes.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm not a pilot. I was flying a helicopter for a while, and I was not too far from getting my helicopter license. And then, I realized, I can only screw up here once.
True.
So I decided to stick to golf.
Bob, we once interviewed a man, I don't remember his name, to be honest with you, but he founded a company called Nikola, and he told us that he taught himself to fly a plane. Do you think that that's possible or not? He's actually now in jail for fraud. So, but what do you think of that?
What do I think of that? I don't know. He'd probably like to step out of jail and have a plane waiting for him.
Yeah.
Take him down to Costa Rica.
Maybe the plane could fly itself and pick him up. Who knows? Who knows?
It's an interesting story.
It's a good one. I think you'd enjoy it. It was full of bullshit. You definitely get a kick out of it. Besides work and golf, what other things in your life are you passionate about, if anything?
Well, I like philanthropy. My wife and I, we these days we move $1 million to charity every 14 days.
Yeah,
and that is probably the most rewarding thing that we do.
Is that $26 million a year, if my math is right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, and man, that's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And so we do all sorts of things, but mostly what we do is, if you see an organization, certainly in the Valley here, and the organization is making a difference, but its cause is not popular for one reason or another, and they're not able to raise money, that's where you'll find us. Because we'll be helping them out. One of the things, some of the stuff is dependent upon how you think. People that are here either undocumented or illegal. We do a lot to help them. God bless them. Some of the stuff they have to deal with just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, particularly their kids, And this is America. Kid needs help. You should get it. So we do that sort of thing. We help the LGBTQ plus community, and there's an organization called 1 in 10, where kids, when their parents discover they're gay, throw them on the street, and then Christ knows what happens to them. Well, this organization finds those kids, gives them a safe place to stay, and teaches them that they're part of the American dream too.
Mm-hmm.
So, organizations like that we help.
Right.
And so I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had to look at the next, 10, 15 years, is there something that is maybe like you're itching to do that you haven't done yet that you really would love to do, or pursue?
Well, the thing I'm most interested in is staying alive, Patrick.
Nice.
And that's definitely over the next 15 years. Now, right now, I'm 72, and I spent a lot of time at PXG, and I love it. and the golf course and so forth. I don't see me firing up a new business anytime soon. But I said that before PXG, and I said it before GoDaddy.
Yeah.
But hey, something comes in front of you, and then it happens.
Is the plan to keep PXG as a company that you operate, or based on just your past experience, is it something that you think that you will sell off at some point?
Well, you're interested in buying it?
There's a price for everything. I don't know.
Well,
it would be pretty fun to negotiate with you. I'm not going to lie, just for the fuck of it.
Well, after the show.
No, not online. No, not online. No, you gotta get both legal counsels on. Let them do the dirty work. You and I can go golf, hang out, whatever, and see what happens.
The hell with the legal counsel. We'll sort it out.
That's right.
Well, Bob, this has been nothing short of fun, and your story is just so incredible. Just hearing where you started and where you are now, it's amazing, and I took a lot from it. I'm sure everyone listening did too. So we can't thank you enough for being here and sharing it with us, and we wish you all the best, moving forward. And yeah, this has been a blast.
All right. Well, it's my pleasure. By the way, I'll just start giving myself a little plug. I just finished writing a book about how I got to where I am, and a lot of fun and so forth. It's called Fire in the Hole. Talks about the war and psychedelics and all that stuff. I finished it on Memorial Day.
Nice.
So,
amazing.
Ought to be published in about 5-6 months, and
yeah.
all the proceeds from it will go to a charity called Free Arts for Abused Children.
Amazing.
Well, we'll make sure we're in touch with your team to talk about it and promote it when it comes out, and maybe we could even do a giveaway to our audience as well, for them to read the book and take something away from it.
Oh, it sounds good, brother. Sounds good. Take care of you guys. You guys are a hoot. I love chatting with you.
Likewise.
And thank you for your service, by the way. I know we didn't mention it during the podcast, but this will be part of the podcast.
All right. Okay. Thank you much.
Thanks, Bob.
Take care, guys.